In this video, we will examine the fundamental questions economics addresses and look at the principles governing how individuals make decisions, how they interact, and how the broader economy functions. First, we must define scarcity. Scarcity refers to the limited nature of society's resources. Because resources are finite, we cannot produce all the goods and services everyone desires. Economics is the study of how society manages these scarce resources. Economists examine how people decide what to buy or save, how firms determine production and hiring levels, and the macro-level forces like economic growth, unemployment, and inflation that shape our world. To understand how people make decisions, we look at four key principles: trade-offs, opportunity cost, rational decision-making at the margin, and the role of incentives. The first principle is that people face trade-offs. To obtain something we value, we generally must sacrifice something else. Whether it's time spent studying versus partying or choosing leisure over work, every decision involves a trade-off. Society also faces trade-offs. For instance, spending more on national defense reduces the budget available for consumer goods, and imposing pollution regulations may improve health, but at the cost of reduced firm profitability. A critical societal trade-off is between efficiency and equality. Efficiency means maximizing benefits from resources, while equality involves distributing prosperity uniformly. Attempts to redistribute wealth for equality can often reduce the incentive to work, shrinking the total economic pie. Principle 2 states that the cost of something is what you give up to get it. This is known as opportunity cost. When making decisions, we must compare the benefits of alternatives and account for these foregone opportunities. Consider the opportunity cost of college. It includes tuition and books, but not room and board. Importantly, it also includes the wages you would have earned had you been working instead of studying. Principle 3 is that rational people think at the margin. They make decisions by evaluating the costs and benefits of small, incremental adjustments to their plans. We compare the marginal benefit to the marginal cost of an action. Let's look at an active learning example. If you are a manager, would you hire one more cashier if they generate $400 in revenue but cost $300 in wages? Or, if you have a streaming subscription, should you watch one more episode? In the case of the cashier, the marginal benefit of $400 exceeds the marginal cost of $300. Therefore, it is a rational decision to hire the additional employee. For the streaming service, the monthly fee is a sunk cost. The decision to watch one more movie depends only on whether the marginal enjoyment exceeds the opportunity cost of your time. Finally, Principle 4. People respond to incentives. Incentives induce action by changing the costs or benefits of a decision. While these can be powerful tools, they can sometimes lead to unintended consequences. Let's look at an example. If the government increases the gasoline tax by $1 per gallon, how do consumers respond? They may drive more fuel-efficient cars, use public transport, or carpool. Businesses also face new incentives to change their operations. Now, let's apply these principles with an active learning exercise. Suppose you are selling a 1967 Chevy Impala. You have already spent $2,000 on repairs, but the transmission dies. Should you pay $1,400 to fix it? The $2,000 already spent is a sunk cost and irrelevant. You only consider if the marginal benefit of the repair exceeds its $1,400 marginal cost. In scenario A, fixing it is worth it. In scenario B, it is not. Next, we turn to how people interact. This brings us to 3 additional principles. Trade can make everyone better off. Markets are usually a good way to organize economic activity, and governments can sometimes improve market outcomes. Principle 5 is that trade makes everyone better off. Rather than being self-sufficient and producing everything yourself, you can specialize in what you do best and trade with others, allowing for a greater variety of goods at a lower cost. Principle 6 states that markets are usually a good way to organize economic activity. A market is simply a group of buyers and sellers. These interactions determine what is produced, how it is produced, and how it is allocated. A market economy is decentralized. Instead of a central government planner, individual firms and households make decisions as they interact in markets. This approach has proven highly successful in promoting overall prosperity. Prices are the vital signal in a market, reflecting both the value to buyers and the cost of production. Through this mechanism, Adam Smith's invisible hand guides market participants toward outcomes that often maximize social well-being. Principle 7. Governments can sometimes improve market outcomes. A key role for government is to enforce property rights. Without secure rights, people would have little incentive to work, invest, or produce because of the risk of theft. Governments also act to promote efficiency when market failures occur. Externalities, such as pollution or market power, like a monopoly, are situations where a market, if left on its own, fails to allocate resources efficiently. Furthermore, governments may promote equality by using tax or welfare policies to redistribute income. Note, however, that while governments can potentially improve outcomes, it does not guarantee that they always will. Here is an exercise to test your understanding of government roles. Consider public schools, workplace safety regulations, highways, and patent laws. Are these examples of the government improving market outcomes? Finally, we examine how the economy as a whole works through our last three principles: living standards based on production, the impact of money supply on prices, and the trade-off between inflation and unemployment. Principle 8. A country's standard of living depends on its ability to produce goods and services. Large variations in income exist across nations, often reflecting differences in the quality of life, healthcare, and education. The primary determinant of these standards is productivity, the quantity of goods and services produced from each unit of labor. This depends heavily on the equipment, skills, and technology available to workers. Principle 9 states that prices rise when the government prints too much money. This phenomenon is known as inflation, an increase in the overall price level. High inflation imposes costs on society, which is why economic policymakers aim to keep it at a reasonable rate. In the long run, inflation is almost always caused by excessive growth in the quantity of money, which reduces the currency's value. The faster a government creates money, the higher the rate of inflation becomes. Principle 10 tells us that society faces a short-run trade-off between inflation and unemployment. When policymakers stimulate demand by increasing the quantity of money, they often reduce unemployment in the short term, but at the cost of higher inflation. Let's consider a scenario. If a university reduces parking permit costs, more students will seek to park on campus, increasing the time needed to find a spot. This demonstrates how lower fees shift behavior and can alter the actual opportunity cost of parking. To summarize, individual decision-making is defined by trade-offs, opportunity costs, marginal analysis, and responses to incentives. These factors guide how people make choices in their daily lives. Regarding economic interactions, trade can benefit everyone, markets are generally effective at coordinating activities, and governments play a role in addressing market failures or promoting equity. Finally, for the economy as a whole, productivity drives living standards, money supply growth determines long-term inflation, and society must manage the inherent short-run trade-off between inflation and unemployment.